Alright, here we are back for another match in this league with Green-White Slivers. This hand would be great if this was a Blossoming Sands and this was a Plains, but it is not, so we're going to mulligan, and that was creepy because I didn't see my hand for a second. We are, however, going to keep this hand. I think this hand's fine. Just, I'm going to bottom that. I think a Lord or a Plated Sliver or a, something else would be better. My opponent also is on a mulligan. We're going to go Verulian Sliver here. And pass turn. So I just got my ass handed to me royally by Delver. Looks like we're up against some kind of Tron deck, which should be interesting. Gonna go ahead and play this Verulian Sliver. Double Verulian Sliver against the Tron deck should be pretty good. So hopefully that gets me somewhere. And yeah, I didn't think that there was a point in really posting it, so yeah, I basically got my butt handed to me game one, and then game two I was about to mull to 5, and I was like, yeah, I'm just not recording it. Alright, I think here just playing a Sinew Sliver is better than looking for, like, a third Sinew Sliver, because we win the game next turn almost anyway. Looks like my opponent might be on Peregrine Draketron. No, it looks like it's Controltron. Yeah, it's just Controltron. Controltron is not the best matchup of all time. It's not great. Tron in general is not really great for you, so that is something to keep in mind. Drawing Double Journey to Nowhere here really stinks, because they're not actually very good against this deck. So we could play Muscle Sliver, but the problem with playing Muscle Sliver is that if my opponent has like a Condescend or a Mana Leak, it's not good. So I think here I'm just going to attack for 6 and play the Metallic Sliver. See what my opponent does, and then play Commune with Nature possibly. Yep, there's the Condescend. So I have no problem getting that condescended. Getting Commune with Nature condescended would have actually kind of annoyed me, because not only is this going to get a creature out of my deck, but this might draw me into another land as well. So let's go ahead and Commune with Nature, see what my opponent did. I don't know what the hell they did. Where is it? Looks like they put a card on top and a card on the... Oh, right here, okay. They bottomed and topped. Alright, so here we'll take the Plated Sliver. I think that's best. I think that's better than the Sidewinder Sliver. So if my opponent topped, likely just went Tron, if they tap out for a Willamog's Crusher, then that should be game for me. Apparently they're playing a 1 of Echoing Truth, so alright. Blossoming Sands, alright, we'll go... Nah, we gotta go Sinew Sliver here. Probably gonna get countered somehow. Yep. And play land and say go. Our opponent is at 4, though, so it's not like they're in great shape. And they're evoking a Mole Drifter, so that's good. That's decent for me. Still missing a land drop, so that's good. So now... now we can play 2 Lords. And, what? Oh. Magma Spray. That stinks. You're witnessing also the problem with Slivers against anything that really isn't an aggro deck. It's just Slivers control matchup is just not good. It's just not good. Slivers has always had a really bad control matchup because all of your creatures individually don't do anything. When you combine your creatures, against an aggro deck where they don't really have much removal, you're okay. I will also admit, though, that having, 2 Journey to Nowhere does stink quite a bit. But, if they were 2 more Lords or just, really 2 of any other creature, I may have had a shot this game. But at this point, I've really gone past the point of being able to win. My opponent's playing a Mole Drifter. If I draw a Lord here, my opponent doesn't have an answer. I may be able to win. Oh no, it looks like they have another removal spell. Yeah, when your opponent is removing a 1 power creature, you know that you're pretty dead. Um, well, I guess I don't know. My opponent is at 4, so might as well just keep playing. I apologize for the kind of slurring of words. I'm watching Monday Night Raw at the same time. So I'm like looking over and watching the game, looking over, watching the game, looking over, watching the game. Alright. So do that. And F8 strats. Pass the turn. Alright, so my opponent played a Pulsum Rasa for their Mole Drifter, and I think that's all she wrote. I'm not really gonna make my opponent play it out as much. And yeah, any land drop I draw at this point is just way too far behind. So I'm gonna take out a couple of Journeys and bring in a couple of Sunlances, mostly because I think Sunlancers are gonna be good at killing creatures. I think I'm gonna keep Journey in there just in case of Ulamog's Crusher. Quicksliver should be good because of the fact that they have so much, counter spells and removal. Well, yeah, I think Quicksliver should be fine. And then, of course, God's Willing is probably something else that I want. So, Hive Stirrings is probably something that I need. Uh, there isn't really much to take out. I guess like Spinneret Sliver is like the weakest 2-drop, and Sentinel Sliver is not great. I kind of want to keep the 1-drop Slivers just because, they're the biggest aggro type cards. And I guess we can go down to 2 Sentinel Sliver just to try and lower the curve a bit, Yes, so we'd like to play first. I am going to keep this hand. I think this hand is pretty much exactly where I want to be. Opponent mulligan to 5. Captain Scryed. And pass turn. Alright, untap planes would be great. I didn't get it. I think I'd rather just play... Nah, I'm just going to play Predatory Sliver. And get in for 6. So my opponent didn't have Flame Slash last turn. They would have to, I assume, draw it this turn. Alright. Discarding another Urza's Tower. I respect my opponent's choice of pictures. Alright, so I think just playing another Lord here. And attacking, kind of funny I have one of each Lord, actually. Just get in for 12. If I draw an untapped land there and untapped planes, I could have used God's Willing. But this game is a good example of my opponent had to kind of mulligan down to 5, and I had to get lucky to win because my opponent didn't have anything. If they at any point had a removal spell for any one of my lords, I probably would not have won this game as easy. So, like I said, the creatures individually are not very good. But when you put the creatures together, they're very good. But the problem is the removal in Pauper is so cheap, and does so much damage that it's very very hard to. I think I'm gonna keep it the same way. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep it the same way. It's very hard to actually keep your creatures alive. You understand? So you're kind of seeing that. I think this hand's fine. I think it's okay to keep. My opponent's mulliganed every game. That is pretty insane. I don't know if they kept. Not really gonna check. Alright, so they probably have turn 3 Tron. It's a lot of Cerulean Slivers, man. Jeez Louise. Yep, they're gonna have turn 3 Tron. I guess we'll find out exactly what they're gonna have. I think here I'm just gonna play Cerulean Sliver again. And yeah, just try to beat down with poison counters as fast as possible. Okay, so they just kept the good old Tron hand. And now I get to do Cerulean Sliver into... Yeah, okay. And as you can see, this is where the Cerulean Slivers also come in. But, alright, so if you'll excuse me just for a second, I'm going to meet you back at the deck tech. So yeah, I think that pretty much showed kind of what the deck is capable of doing. its weaknesses, and why I actually believe it's just not a good choice in the format right now. I think it's a fun deck. I think it's a really fun deck. It's really fun. I think that in a very aggro-heavy meta against decks like Affinity, green-white tokens, against decks such as Goblins, things of that nature, I think this deck can have game because I think that unless your opponent has a lot of removal, you're going to be able to get so many lords out that it's going to be very hard to even kill a creature. Um, as you saw against Affinity, I played some lords, played an Armadillo Cloak, and that was enough to get the win. Another reason I would not play this deck is because it has a horrible blue-red Peregrine Drake matchup, as you saw. It is just not a great matchup against that deck. And then against the Tron deck, you saw game one that my Tron opponent had a pretty typical draw. We both had a pretty typical draw. And my opponent just kept on going removal, 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 and eventually I ran out of gas so much that I just wasn't able to keep up with anything my opponent was doing. Game two, you saw that my opponent had to mulligan down to 5 and had to not have any removal. And then game three, you saw, my opponent, again, I got very lucky because my opponent just kept Tron, but didn't draw anything. But as you can see, Slivers also is very good at capitalizing on, bad draws and stumbles. But notice that I kept saying against my Tron opponent, I had to get very, very lucky. Against my Peregrine Drake opponent, I would have had to have get very, very lucky to win. And I think if you're going to play a deck in Pauper, especially these days where you have to rely on a lot of luck to win, if you like playing the deck, it's good. It's a lot of fun. But I think you probably want to pick something else. I think you probably want to do a bit better. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope I didn't offend any Sliver players out there. I don't claim to be a genius or anything. I'm usually calling myself a pretty bad player and whatnot. So, what's my verdict on Slivers? I think it's a great deck. I think it's fun if you want to try it, but I don't think you're going to get very far if you're playing this deck competitively right now in this format. So, that's my verdict. I would probably pick something else, but hey, if you want to play it, go ahead. You could easily win with it. I could easily be wrong. I could very well be wrong. I could also just be very bad. Alright, guys, so thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. And again, have a good one.